Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Quick Play. Today we're going to be playing a game called Caves of Qud. It's a traditional roguelike, one of my favorite genres of game. If you don't know what a traditional roguelike is, basically it's a tile-based game, turn-based as well, and almost everything should be randomly generated, and Caves of Qud is no exception. What does make Caves of Qud a little different from other traditional roguelikes is that there is a bit of a storyline, there is a main quest, and usually you don't find main quests that have the complexity that Caves of Qud's main quest does have. Another thing that I forgot to mention about traditional roguelikes is permadeath. So Caves of Qud is a game where if you create a character and you die, your character is lost forever and you have to start again. And that makes the game incredibly challenging, but it's also what gives the game an element of fun. So without much more yapping on, let's just get started in the game. So this is the main screen, Caves of Qud. I'm going to start a new game so you get an idea of how the character creation works. We're going to start a new character, but you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff here. There's a build library which allows you to create a character and save that character for later games. There's a weekly challenge. I've never done that before. And then you can play with your last character. The important thing to note is that death is frequent in this game. So I'm going to try get as far as I can. I'm probably only going to play like I usually play for about 10 minutes. But if it goes well, then I might do more Caves of Qud videos with the same character and see how far we get. So without further ado, let's create a new character. So here you have two choices. You can either be a mutated human, and that allows you to add mutations, and there's a whole list of mutations you can add. Or you can be Truekin, which is sort of a pure human. There's no mutations at all, but you do have access to cybernetics. The key differences between these two is that Truekin, you start with higher starting attributes, which obviously with mutated human you don't. It literally says that there. But Truekin, you start with cybernetics, or you don't start with cybernetics. You have access to cybernetics, and so as you play the game, you'll find new cybernetics that you can plug into your body and augment yourself. Whereas a mutated human, it's a little bit harder to sort of add new traits and skills. Well, you can add skills, but new traits and new superpowers, let's put it that way. Having said that, I'm going to start with the mutated human just because of the two, it's probably the most interesting. So this is a standard character creation screen. You've probably seen it countless times before in a role-playing game. I'm going to give myself a bit of strength, a bit of agility, a bit of toughness, some intelligence. And I'll explain what all of these do in a sec as soon as I finish clicking on all the buttons. Cool, so we've got 8 points remaining, but let's just go through this quickly. Strength, how much you can carry, how much attacks or how strong your attacks are. Agility, how good are you at aiming, how good are you at dodging, and by aiming I mean with ranged weapons. Toughness determines the number of hit points, how quickly you regenerate, your resistance to poison, disease, etc. So throughout the game you'll find weird artifacts, you can pick them up, and intelligence kind of determines how quickly you can identify them, or not how quickly, but your chances of identifying them. Sometimes you can't, and then you break the item. Willpower, so you're gonna discover that you have, not discover, you're definitely gonna have abilities throughout the game, and willpower just works out how quickly those abilities cool down. So for example, if I activate my sprinting ability, usually it's about 86 turns before that cools down, but the higher my willpower, the less that'll be. And then ego, kind of think of it as your magic. The game doesn't have magic per se, but there are mutations that rely on your ego. So the higher your ego, the quicker you can, or the more magic things you can do. I'll explain a little bit more in detail when we get to the relevant screens. So for this particular character, I'm going to probably bump up my ego a little bit higher and give myself some strength and agility. As I progress through the game, I can assign points that I've earned by leveling up to these other stats, but let's skip to the next step now. So morphotypes, you can be a chimera, an esper, or have an unstable genome. Chimera means that when you add new skills through the course of the game, they'll mostly be physical mutations. And esper means that you'll have mental mutations, and unstable means you'll get a mix of both. But what you can do is just ignore that completely and go straight to physical mutations. But I'm not going to do physical mutations for now. I'm going to jump into mental mutations and get some of the ones that I like. So a nice one that I enjoy using is, and you can see there's a lot. Where is it? Light manipulation. So light manipulation is cool. It basically allows me to shoot lasers out of my eyes. Nice. Also, I have ambient light. So there's a lot of dungeons in this game. And obviously one of the most important things when you're entering a dungeon is to have a light source. Someone with light manipulation has sort of an ambient light around them. It's really not enough to make a difference, and you do need to have an external or a separate light source as well. But the laser eyes is pretty rad. You get to shoot people with your laser eyes. Pretty important. The next thing I'm going to add, and I'm going to distribute points as I kind of things that I would like. I might run out of points though, so let's just go beguiling. So beguiling's pretty rad. If you standing next to a monster and you activate this ability, you can actually recruit them and they will follow you around until they die. So I'm going to take that. So that gives us 5 points. So what are we going to use that for? So an important thing is to have something that gets you out of situations really quickly. The one way to do that is to have something like teleportation. And so teleportation will allow you to jump to anywhere on the map that you've been to before. So that's pretty cool. You can also use teleport other, which means that if there's someone really hurting you and damaging you, you can try and teleport them to another part of the map. Well, it will randomly pick a place for them to go. So I just want to jump to physical mutations quickly before we do anything further. So these are the mutations that obviously apply to what your body looks like and what you're capable of doing. So there are things like night vision. You can have multiple legs, which will speed you up. You can have multiple arms, which means you can carry more weapons. You can have horns, which means you don't have to carry weapons. Heightened quickness. Heightened hearing is a really good one because it allows you to hear monsters before you see them. So I would like that. Click. But I only have 3 points. That's problematic because it means that I don't have enough points for teleportation anymore. Yikes. So how am I going to get out of a problematic situation? Let's go see if we've got something here that will help us. You can even have wings. I see you have wings. But that's not going to be useful when you're underground. So, I tell you what. Let's get Force Wall. Force Wall allows me to draw a wall of, I don't know, force. I don't know what they call it here. No, just force. It's like a barrier, like a shield. What I could do if I wanted to get more points to play with is I can give myself some physical or mental defects. Like myopia, what does that do? Nearsighted, so you can only see up to a radius of 4. I've got good hearing, so maybe. Hemophilia, so that means my blood doesn't clot easily. This can get pretty fatal later in the game, or even earlier in the game. It means you have to carry a lot of bandages around with you. Not cool. Brittle bones. Yeah. You suffer 150% damage from falling. And attacks made with cudgels and other sources of concussive damage. Not great. Beaks. You have an unsightly beak. You can't wear anything on your face. What are we going to do with those 2 points, I wonder? Amphibious. That means you have to keep yourself wet all the time. Alright, let's see. Spontaneous combustion is a nice one. It means every now and then you burst into flames. Hooks for feet. Oh, you cannot wear shoes and your movement speed is reduced. Let's go look at the mental defects. Amnesia, this basically means you can't forget, well, you can't, you forget things. So like where you've been on the map. Blinking tick. I found this quite annoying. I've played with this before. It basically means randomly as you're walking around, you teleport somewhere, which means if you're in the middle of something, it can be a bit disruptive. Evil twin. So this is a science fiction setting, just to give you, if you haven't picked that up yet, science fiction setting, and an evil twin is someone that'll randomly appear and from a parallel universe and try to take you out. Narcolepsy, as the name implies, you will fall asleep. And socially repugnant, that just means you're not a very nice person and people barely tolerate you. The effect really is that you're going to pay more for things. So I'm going to be a bit, I'm going to play this a little bit safe, and I'm not going to get any defects. I'm just going to try and play with the physical mutations I've got. One of the things I would have liked to have gotten is night vision, because it allows me to see in the dark and I don't have to carry a torch around. But hey, let's skip to the next step. And so now we've got subtypes, and subtypes dictates the skills that you start with. So what we've done up till now is we've got our stats, like our strength and what have you. We've gotten our mutations going, so those are like the special skills that we have, or the special, yeah, it is the special skills, I guess. But then there are a normal pool of skills that we can use, like for example the ability to use a sword, or the ability to use a ranged weapon, and I'll explain those a little bit later. But these are the subtypes, and if I click for example on Pilgrim, if I am a Pilgrim, I get 2 extra willpower. I get some self-discipline, which gives me Fasting Way and Iron Mind. Fasting Way, I think, slows down the amount of time I have between getting hungry, I think. And Iron Mind, there are some enemies in the game that can attack you mentally, and Iron Mind sort of prevents that. And then Wayfaring, which as you're exploring through the game, you can get lost, and Wayfaring just lessens the amount of times you get lost. So there are all of these. There's the Apostle, which kind of gives you more ego, which means you can do sort of more mental powers, and you know things about folklore, and that'll help you in conversations. And you can intimidate and proselytize. But if you remember, I chose Beguiling, which means something like proselytize doesn't really help me. And while intimidation's useful in some cases, yeah. The Arcanaut, so this is interesting. 2 agility, short blade, spry is very cool. It means that you can dodge things a little bit. So the idea would be with this character is that we'd have to have light armor, so that we can remain agile. And we start off with short blade. And I think that's a pretty good thing to start out with. It means we can use short swords. So I'm going to start with the Arcanaut. There's a whole bunch of others here. We could be here all night if I explain everyone to you, but you know, you got the Marauder. Marauder is good at axes, and with axes you can dismember people, all sorts of things. So let's go with the Arcanaut. So here we get a little summary screen. I'm going to randomly pick a name. Kidger. Croyum. Yeah, Seashire. That's the name of my character, Seashire. And this really is for me to just make sure that I'm happy with what I've chosen. Heightened hearing, awesome. Beguiling, fantastic. Force wall, useful. And light manipulation, gonna be a really good skill early on in the game. Let's start the game. Right, so you've got a couple of starting locations. Joppa is recommended for new players. I don't really agree with that. I've found that if you start at any one of these random villages, your starting quests are sometimes a lot easier. But I'm going to start at Joppa because most people will, and there's a couple of things about Joppa that do make it a fairly cool place to start, especially if it's your first time. Here we go, Joppa. So the game's creating the world, and we're initializing the maps. Gosh, all right. You embark for the caves of Qud. On the 26th of Uluut, you arrive at the oasis hamlet of Joppa along the far rim of Mogarai, the great salt desert. All around you, moisture farmers tend to the groves of Viridian watervine. There are huts wrought from rock salt and brine stalk. On the horizon, Qud's jungles strangle chrome steeples and rusted archways to the earth. Further and beyond, the fabled spindle rises above the fray and pierces the cloud-ribbon sky. Cool, so I'm going to hit the OK button. And here we are, Joppa. Now the first thing you're going to say is, wow, Greg, these graphics are awful. Well, no, they're not. There's a certain aesthetic to this that I quite like. And you kind of get used to it. It's sort of like reading a book. A book requires a lot of imagination. And so does this game. It really pulls you in. It draws you in, just like a good book. And having said that, very well written game. A lot of the text you're going to read is on point. So this is the latest version of Caves of Qud. I've enabled a lot of the user interface improvements. Not everyone is going to agree. Not every Caves of Qud fan, at least, is going to agree that the user interface improvements are ideal or purist. But yeah, I like them. So I'm going to start out by showing you. By the way, that little dude there, the little white icon there, is me. And here are some houses. So here we are. This is my inventory. On the right hand side here, you can see this is what I'm wearing. I'm carrying a torch in my left hand, very useful for when we go into the dungeon later on. I've got in my right hand, what have I got? I've got a bronze dagger. That's 1d2. So this works on dice rolls. And so what we've got here is a two-sided dice that will be rolled once, which means that when I attack, the dice will be rolled once, so I'm either going to get a 1 or a 2, and that's the amount of damage I'm going to do. Obviously, the more sides your dice has, and the more times it's rolled, will affect that. And what you really want to do is get a dice that as sort of as many sides as you can with as many rolls as you can. Cool. I'm carrying a bow and I'm carrying a grenade. In my inventory, I'm also wearing a mask, and if I look at this mask, it's a piece of thick burlap impregnated with vinewood sap, helping to protect against noxious gas and vapor. So that could be quite useful. I've got a cloth robe here. That'll add to my protection. So I'm going to put that cloth robe on. Let's equip. Oh dear. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to wear my bark armor. Actually, my bark armor, while it gives me 2 protection, it takes 1 away from my agility. So maybe this cloth robe might be a little bit better. We'll see how this plays out. You know, I could die within the first. So I'm carrying a bunch of stuff. Now you'll see 32 drams of fresh water, 32 drams of fresh water. So I'm carrying 64 drams of fresh water. And in this game, the setting is desert-like, right? So 64 drams of fresh water is good. And water is also the currency in this game. All right, I'm carrying 23 unburnt torches and a couple of wooden arrows. You can sort your inventory by sort of clicking on the categories above here. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at is the skills I have. So if we go to skills, I'm just going to collapse some of them so that we can sort of see. So everything in yellow are skills that I have, and everything in red is skills that I don't have. Those skill points, 150, those are the amount of points I'm going to need to unlock that skill tree. So for example, if I wanted to get good at bows and rifles, I'd have to pay 100 skill points. Once I've paid that 100 skill points, I will automatically get steady hands and I'll be able to draw a bead. But then any additional skills under that will require me to use skill points or to pay with skill points. But right now I've got acrobatics. Remember, we're spry, we have swift reflexes, yay, and short blade. means I sort of know the basics of using a short blade, which is very useful since I have that short blade. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do, and this is one of the tricks of Caves of Qud, I guess, is I'm going to go into this little house. I'm going to close the door so no one can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to open this chest. And it's going to tell me this is not owned by you. Are you sure you want to open it? Yes, I'm a thief. I'm going to steal stuff. So I can steal this extra wooden arrow. So I'm going to get it. And this burnt capacitor. These 2 burnt capacitors. Now, later on in the game, when I unlock the tinker skill, I can actually use some of these building blocks to build extra things like weapons and modifications to weapons and armor and that sort of thing. I'm not going to take everything. I really don't want to. I've got a short bow already. I really don't want to weigh my character down with stuff he doesn't need, or she. So let's raid this chest. Oh, more arrows. Yes. There's the weird artifact I was telling you about earlier. The weird artifact that requires intelligence to identify. So I'm going to get that. Bent metal sheet, I'll get that. And copper nugget. Oh, did I take that? Let's see. Yes, I did. Okay. Close the door. Now, this character that I'm standing next to here, I can look at him and it tells me that he's a zealot of the 6th day stilt. She preaches the chromaic gospel of the mechanimists. Gosh. Precious saliva flies from her cracked lips, but she's too wrapped in the music of her words to notice. So this game is rife with different religions and different factions, and as you progress, you're either going to get certain religions and factions to like you, and certain species to like you, and other species to hate you. And that's just the nature of how you play. So you might get to a point where you're going to be in a situation where you should have probably made friends with a group of people, but now you're surrounded by them and they're all trying to kill you. Really depends how you play. Alright, I'm going to interact with this person. Wanderer, orphan of the salt, hear me! To the north and the west, through the great salt desert, the 6th day stilt splits the earth in 2. Seek there the grandeur of Shekinah. First among fathers, release yourself from the burden that chrome bears on your sickly flesh. Go now. So I've got a whole bunch of conversation options. I'm just going to go with the bottom one. You intrigue me. I will make the journey and see the 6th day stilt for myself. There's a couple of things you can say which are fairly nasty, but I'm going to go with this one. And that gives me a new quest. Cool. So if I look at my quests, I've got that quest. And if I look at the world map, which I will do now, it'll tell me exactly where to go for that quest. But before I do that, I'm going to steal some more things. There we go. Yes. Another weird artifact. Fantastic. And a water skin. Very useful if I get more water later on. Let's close the door. And that's all the houses I can raid in this game. Or in this village, rather. Right. So we've got some weird artifacts. So let's try and identify them. So I click on it, I click examine, and it's a high explosive grenade. That's very useful. And now this one looks like some kind of bangle, so I'm going to examine that. You make some progress understanding the metal bracelet. Yeah, it's still still not exactly examine. Yep, ontological anchor. What the? Let's see what that does. Plutonic metal is etched with a 2-dimensional projection of the rhombic dodecahedral honeycomb, allowing it to snap onto the ley lines of the local region. It means that I become astrally tethered. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to keep this. You'll see in brackets it says small trinket. That means that this has got some kind of battery in it. I'm going to remove that battery. There we go. And I'm going to examine that battery. And we now see it's a chem cell. That might be useful later on. I might get some other tool or artifact that I can use that battery in. But for now, I'm taking it out of that ontological anchor. Some veteran Caves of Qud players might be completely upset by that I don't know what any of that is. But sorry. Alright. Right, so I'm going to move along here. And here is a dromad trader. Let's just look at him so you get an idea. He's a stoic, long-necked man-camel. This trader belongs to the race of the mercantile desert rovers who men call dromad. You can also see what he's equipped with. He's very tough. I think that's just a hint that we shouldn't attack him. Instead, I'm going to talk to him. There's a couple of conversation options. He really just reiterates who he is and where he's from. But let's trade. So on the left-hand side is what he has. On the right-hand side is what I have. Let's just go through. I think what we want... I'm going to buy some lead slugs in case I pick up a gun at some point. I'm going to also get some steel arrows because they are slightly more potent than the wooden arrows. Maybe some bandages might be helpful. Ooh, a steel short sword. Let's leave it for now. Alright, so I owe him about 11 drams. Let's see if I can sell something to him to even that out. You know, failed energy relays, there's just a lot of them lying around, so I'm just going to sell those to him. And he will have to give me 1 dram, so that was a bit of a good deal, I think. Cool. I'm going to load my bow now, and it gives me a choice. Great, I've chosen steel arrows, and let's carry on with our lives here. You'll see that as I move through the world, it updates on the right-hand side and tells me what's going on. What I'm going to do, and this is another game secret, is I'm going to go into a little crack here by the well. And here we go, entering our first dungeon. An important tip. Okay, so here we are. We're in the dungeon. If I hit the Alt key, I can see who's friend and foe. You'll see there's a group of people standing there. So I'm going to head on across. And, oh, there's a lot of friends here. That's useful. All right. Let's have a chat. Oh, it's a mechanimist pilgrim. Live and drink, traveler. Show mercy to a weary pilgrim. Let's trade. What have you got? Yeah, nothing of interest really. A slate frock. This dress made out of stones, is it? A frock of slate cloth. Alright. I assume that it might be just a color. Alright, so these dudes are having fun camping. You'll see, because I've got heightened hearing, there's a question mark there. If my hearing were better, I'd be able to identify what that is. But at this point, I know that there's something there. And it is a giant centipede. So if we look at him, he's a python-sized arthropod undulating forward on hundreds of chittering legs. All right. Now this is where I'm going to use some of my skills to attack this guy. I've got laze, which I've hotkeyed, so I'm going to laser him with my laser eyes. Pew! All right. I'm going to try again. Pew! Oh, we're not doing too well. And okay. So now we're switching to hand-to-hand combat, I think. Melee combat and attack. You'll see when I've attacked him there, it suddenly updates. It tells me that the giant centipede is wet because he has just wandered through this water, that he is hostile, and that he's injured. Something to be mindful of is that there is also this chameleon, and he is absolutely hostile. So this might be a short-lived battle. I'm going to attack, and he died. Yay me. All right. So, bottom of the screen here, you see I've still got 1 charge left to use with my laser eyes. So let's do that. And yep. Okay. All right. He's still doing fine. All right. Let's see if we can. Let's try again. Try again. He's injured. He's wounded. And he's dead. So we've gained a level now. I'm now level 2. That means I get 2 hit points. So I've got slightly more health now. And I've got 74 skill points. Remember, I can use skill points to buy new skills. And I've also got a mutation point now. So let's go have a look at our character sheet. I can use these mutation points to increase my hearing. Or I can save up until I've got 4 mutation points and buy another random mutation. This time around, I'm going to just upweight my hearing a little bit just so I can recognize creatures a little bit better as I progress through the game. There are some active effects here. What am I? I'm covered in 1 dram of diluted salt. So that I either, so I'm salt encrusted, and that is either because I wandered through some salty water. Most of the water in the game is salty. It's the reason that fresh water is a currency is because there's not a lot of fresh water. Cool. There's a campfire next to me there. I can cook on that campfire if I'm hungry, but I'm not particularly hungry. All right. Now, you've probably been hearing that clicking sound, and that is this little guy here that I can hear. It's a seed-spitting vine. So I'm going to try to get a little bit closer. Oh, yep. And there he is. We can see him. He's hurt me. I've only got 10 out of 18 health. So this is pretty crucial that I take him out. And I think I hit him. Let's try again. Nope. We're not doing well. We're not doing well. And we took him out. All right. So 10 out of 18 health. What I want to do now is just find a little corner here. And I'm going to rest until I'm fully healed. So now I've rested. Of course, time passes in this game. So resting will take some time. But it also means that I've recovered some of the charges and what have you that I've got for my lasers and what have you. Cool. So there's a little plant here. A hostile plant. It's basically like a vine that sticks to the wall and captures you. I'm just going to go in from the side and attack it. Cool. I've gotten some experience out of that. And yeah, we're going to just wander around the cave a little bit. And oh, there's a centipede after me there. I'm going to pew. All right. Let's try again. Pew. All right. There is another seed-spitting vine around here. You flinch away as a seed whizzes past. And that's basically because I'm spry and because my armor doesn't affect my ability to dodge. All right. And we've got one more charge. Okay. So he's wounded and badly wounded and dead. All right, my health is 9 out of 18. So a good thing to do would be to find a little safe corner and rinse and repeat. Just rest until I'm fully healed. Okay, let's keep going. Alrighty. There we go. The seed-spitting vine is somewhere close. Or is it? I get very nervous when I can't see them. Alright, there we go. Alright, let's just get a little bit closer. Oh, this is scaring me. Oh, my health has dropped below 40%. Okay. So I'm sitting here with 3 out of 18. As I said, death is a very common thing in this game. I'm going to look at my skills now and see if there's anything I can do to get me out of this and save my life, hopefully. I can try to draw a force wall around myself. I don't think that's a good idea for now. My health is a bit low, and unfortunately there's... I need to move. I can't really draw a wall and hope things get better. I need to get out of this. I need to move. So my only real option is to sprint away. So I'm going to try sprint away. You'll see there's now a little flashing icon showing that I'm sprinting. And here it goes. Oh! And even though I was running, he killed me. Yikes. So this gives me a little game summary and what I did and what the best thing I had in the game was and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that is Caves of Qud, and you can keep hitting a new game and trying again. And just to give you some hope, here are some of my save games. You'll see I've got a level 12 here. I've got a level 11 here. This is a level 2. And then I've got a level 25. So if you play your cards right, you can get pretty far in this game. Okay, so with that in mind, and probably the longest video that I've done up until now, I'm going to love you and leave you. Have a good evening, good morning, and good night, wherever you may be. yeah, and thanks for watching.